Hello and welcome to eNews at 7. I'm Cyril Ramaphosa. It's great to have you with us. Our top stories tonight. President Cyril Ramaphosa returns 4,000 hectares of land to a community in KwaZulu-Natal, hailing it a historic moment for the country. The Sunday Times apologizes for unethical journalism, saying their reporters were manipulated by those with ulterior motives. This leads President Cyril Ramaphosa has conceded government has been slow with its land restitution and redistribution process. He was speaking in northern KwaZulu-Natal, where he handed over 4,000 hectares of land to the KwaMkhwanazi community. Hammanskraal was there and filed this report.
Restoring people's dignity by giving them that which belongs to them, their land.
We are now going to move forward with greater speed, with greater determination, so that we can fully implement the land challenge that our country has faced over a number of years.
Ramaphosa says land is central to economic emancipation and freedom.
Our struggle was for economic empowerment, and economic empowerment comes about when people get assets.
And this plea from the head of state to a community that's just received thousands of hectares of productive land.
I would like to see this as the real shining example of how we return land to the hands of our people. Let us use this for true empowerment for our people. We know that we can rely on you.
Ramaphosa says land redistribution will ensure social and economic security in the country, an issue which may cause instability if it's not addressed. Hammanskraal, KwaZulu-Natal.
The Sunday Times will return all the awards and prize money presented to its reporters for their stories on the Cater Manor Death Squad, the SARS Rogue Unit and the Zimbabwean renditions. The paper says it was manipulated and the stories were later established to be false. Earlier, I spoke to political analyst Karima Brown. I started by asking her if the Sunday Times apology is good enough.
No, I don't think it's enough. There's already confusion about whether two of the reporters attached to the story around the so-called hit squad have been fired or not. That's Mziwa Africa and, of course, Stefan Hofstadter. You saw people protesting at the launch of his book. And the Sunday Times is simply not coming clean and telling us exactly what's going to be happening to people. Moreover, the byline was shared by Rob Rose. He remains on staff, and importantly, it was not Felicia Leopold who was editing the paper at that time. It was in fact Ray Hartley, and he's also still there. So if they are really apologizing, one should hear what the accountability measures are that they're going to be taking. There's a lot of rumors. I've certainly had sources confirm to me absolutely that both Stefan Hofstadter and Mziwa Africa have in fact been fired by the company. But if that is so, which is now being denied by the legal representative of the Sunday Times, they would of course have to answer why Ray is still in his job and why Rob Rose hasn't been sacked.
Now, the paper says that they were manipulated. It seems like they're trying to blame people who use them with ulterior motives.
Look, the point is you're never going to have investigative journalism without sources. The good investigative journalist triangulates information because sources can lie to you. And that is why in a very factionalized, very divided ruling and governing party, you make sure that you speak to people from all the factions. You make sure that you have the absolute information. If you look at Johan Boysen, who was charged as a subsequence of the story, if you look at his account of what happened, it is absolutely clear that the Sunday Times wasn't just being manipulated. They played along with the manipulators.
Now, let's talk about the way forward for this newspaper. Can they actually pick up the credibility that they've now, many say, have lost?
Well, some people have argued that they need to go to the Nugent Commission, particularly on the SARS matter, because as you know, the organisation was hollowed out. Ivan Pillay, Johan van Lochenberg, Adrian Lekay, and many others, were hounded out of the organisation. And then, of course, the Hawks itself, Johan Boysen, Hawks head at the time in KwaZulu-Natal, was being charged by a so-called cabal in the NPA. And until we actually know the extent to which the Sunday Times journalists were manipulated, they can't really get us to believe that their credibility is restored, because there are obvious things that are just not answered. We don't know why it was that the general rules of journalism, of triangulation, of making sure that your sources are actually truthful with you, were not checked. And then, of course, there's the allegation by Mr. O'Sullivan that 2 of the journalists were actually on the take. The Sunday Times has not explained to us whether they've established as a fact whether these journalists did actually take money. So until we know all those issues, this is far from over for the Sunday Times.
A 77-year-old Limpopo man says he hasn't been able to access his investment with VBS Mutual Bank. The pensioner says the agony of losing his money will be the death of him. A Reserve Bank investigation found nearly 2 billion rand was looted from VBS. Zikhona Chona reports.
After retiring in 2002, Nyambeni Nemaunzeni invested all his pension with VBS Mutual Bank. He says he knew he was investing in a future for his children and his grandchildren. But now his forward thinking has become his worst nightmare.
Especially they want net bank, Raya net bank very ayungo ya VBS. Rishia VBS, very chere on Badaisa net bank.
He says the uncertainty is starting to affect his health. His body aches and he has become absent-minded. Like many others, Nemaunzeni wants all those responsible for destroying what was once the pride of this community to face the might of the law. He says he feels betrayed and robbed of leaving a legacy for his grandchildren. Zikhona Chona, Dutuni, in Thohoyandou.
Fees Must Fall student activist Leopold Dlamini has confirmed he's trying out for the ANC Youth League presidency. The league is expected to hold its 26th National Congress to elect new leadership next weekend.
The young people have lobbied me. I've been lobbied and I've been running away. And up until I couldn't run away anymore. Because if I were to say no, then it will mean that I will have failed those who believe in me. Even if I was approached by one person. Because being a leader, it means there's someone that sees you as a leader. It doesn't need to be the entire country. Even if it was one person that says, you should stand. I see you as a leader. I would say I've been approached by someone. So I have been approached. Yesterday I was in KZN in Abatulusi region, where we met with the leadership of young people there, who says, we want you to stand. And I said, thank you very much.
Are these official branches of the ANC Youth League that
actually,
approached
it's leadership of a region in that space. I've been approached by people in Mpumalanga, Malahleni region. I've been approached by Nkomanzi sub-region where I grew up in Mpumalanga. So even here in Gauteng, we've been approached and we are available and we are going to contest.
Coming up after the break, despite reports of food and fuel shortages, Zimbabwe's Deputy Information Minister claims the economic situation in the country is now under control. Welcome back. Tswane emergency officials say the search for 2 people believed to have drowned in a river in Hammanskraal will resume tomorrow. They responded after an eyewitness reported seeing 2 bodies floating in the river this morning. Meanwhile, residents whose homes flooded overnight are blaming it on a poor storm water drainage system. Balungelu Boy reports.
These were the scenes in parts of Hammanskraal on Saturday night. People's homes underwater. By Sunday, the storm had effected a lot of damage. Even livestock had not been spared. Inside some of the homes, residents used clothes and towels to dry surfaces.
From Kale, batswadi ba ka ba sa nna mo ntse tsena metsi le no isa tsena metsi and the government are to tsika selo.
Some residents even spent the day digging trenches for the water from the heavy rains. Musa Mpanga says the drainage system isn't appropriate for their homes, which are built in a low-lying area.
The drainage is not good. The water doesn't fall right. So maybe if you can get the right drainage, the water will be all right.
City of Tshwane disaster officials say they've moved about 50 people whose homes were flooded. At the same time, they're still following up on reports that 2 bodies were seen floating in Apis River.
We immediately sent our teams out. We met the person on site. He indicated this is the position where he saw them floating by, from the position he's standing. We've been searching for 5 hours. We could not get anything. SAPS and emergency services decided, let's wait till the river, the flow of the force of the water subside, and by tomorrow they will resume their search efforts. But nobody has been reported as missing as yet.
Meanwhile, City of Johannesburg and Ekurhuleni say no major incidents have been reported so far. Leopold, Hammanskraal.
October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Now, we often just assume it's a disease that mainly affects women, but men are also struggling with the deadly sickness. Most people don't realize men have breast tissue that can develop cancer. We asked men if they're aware of male breast cancer. This is what they had to say.
Yo, wow, I didn't even know something like that existed, bro. Yo, it's a first for me to hear. I was hoping maybe you can tell me more about it, bro. Literally, I only know of females experiencing this breast cancer, so that's what it's famous for, or with whom rather it's famous. So not with males, so this is actually a first for me, so now I'm quite worried because you never know. As males, we don't really check that out.
I've never ever heard of male breast cancer. I'm even still thinking it's a myth, so I'm too shocked to be scared for now that there's such a thing as male breast cancer.
I think I've heard of it, but I honestly can't tell you any more details than that.
No, I have not.
Male breast cancer? No. No.
I've heard about it, but I haven't done any research about it.
I have never heard of male breast cancer, but I've heard of prostate cancer.
I actually don't know a lot about male breast cancer. Obviously, the most of the instances are in females. So the truth of the matter is that I don't know much about male breast cancer.
Several times. I mean, it's about trying to really just look into this very crippling disease. It's often misunderstood, so dozens of times I've really heard about it. But I mean, I think there's also a least amount of information out there for males in particular to deal with it.
All right, Kaya Kamala, our reporter, seems to know more than anyone else in our office. Zimbabwe's government says it's managed to control the current economic crisis. Officials claim it's simply the result of businesses and locals panicking after the introduction of a new 2% tax on all electronic transactions. That's as labor union leaders appear in court for attempting to stage protests against the crisis.
In the past few weeks, Zimbabwe has experienced critical fuel shortages, sharp price hikes on basic commodities, and major cash shortages. But Zimbabwe's Deputy Information Minister says the situation is under control.
The economic situation has since improved after a tragedy that we experienced soon after the announcement of the mid-term monetary policy by the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe. There was confusion with regards to a 2% transaction tax, and we realized that some fuel importers stopped importing the commodity after realizing that they would be making a loss. And there was panic buying of goods and commodities, as people speculated that there would be empty shelves. But as we are seeing, our shelves are now refilling. There are no more fuel queues, and everything is back to normal.
Meanwhile, leaders of the country's largest labor union, the Zimbabwe Congress of Trade Unions, ZCTU, have been released on $50 bail each after appearing in court. The leaders were arrested on Thursday for trying to lead a nationwide street protest over the economic crisis.
They are being charged with participating in a gathering, realizing that there is a real risk or possibility that the gathering might disturb the public order or public security. I think the charge, what the state has been doing is simply been adopting a scattergun approach of just trying to look for any charges to lump on the accused persons, because initially they had indicated they are charging them with public violence. Later on they changed and indicated they are charging them with disorderly conduct, and then later on now in the afternoon they changed to say they are now charging them with Section 37 of the Criminal Law Codification Reform Act.
However, on Monday, a social movement group, Tajamuka Movement, has also announced it will embark on street demonstrations in protest, which they have labeled the national shutdown over the same economic crisis. Pindai Due, Harare, Zimbabwe.
After the break, your weather details, and then the Markets Theatre is playing host to King Leopold II's rule over the Congo, featuring the legendary John Carney.
Good evening and welcome to the Weather Center. We are going to head into Monday with light rain and drizzle going on over the western areas of the Western Cape. It will be pretty settled for the central areas, but further east we are going to be seeing isolated to scattered thunderstorms extending from Limpopo through Mpumalanga down into KwaZulu-Natal. And around sunrise we could continue to see thundershowers over northeastern Limpopo. It will be partly cloudy to cloudy for the southern and western areas. Then in the afternoon, mostly sunny skies are forecast over the western and central areas. Isolated rain and thundershowers can be expected for eastern Limpopo and Mpumalanga, parts of KwaZulu-Natal and the eastern areas of the Eastern Cape. And over the western areas, this cold front will be pushing in quite a bit of cloud into the southwestern areas, and by the evening we should see light rain setting in over parts of the Western Cape. Now it's going to be mostly sunny and much warmer for your Monday over much of the Northern Cape, with highs in the upper 20s for the northeastern areas of the province. Light rain showers are forecast for a good part of Monday across much of the Western Cape, Cape Town and Langaban, peaking at just around 20 degrees in the afternoon. We're also going to see a few sprinkles of rain along the Eastern Cape coastal areas, where highs in the lower 20s are forecast on Monday afternoon. Light rain is also possible for the southern areas of KwaZulu-Natal. It will be mostly sunny and warm to hot for the northeastern sections. The weather is going to be pretty quiet across much of Mpumalanga, partly cloudy and hot for Mbombela, peaking at 35 degrees. It will also be hot across much of the Limpopo province, with thundershowers persisting over the eastern areas. Sunny skies are forecast across much of the northwest, where top temperatures in the upper 20s and lower 30s are forecast on Monday afternoon. We are also going to see mostly clear skies across the Free State with warm afternoon temperatures. Gauteng could see just a bit of cloud overhead in places, a warm 29 for the high in Pretoria. Now looking ahead to your Tuesday, it's going to be mostly sunny and hot for the northern parts of the country. However, light rain is forecast along the south and the east coast, as well as parts of KwaZulu-Natal, with thundershowers persisting over the northeastern areas. Thundershowers continue on Wednesday for Polokwane and Mbombela. It will stay wet in KwaZulu-Natal, as well as around East London and Port Elizabeth.
And Belgian King Leopold II's rule over the Congo in the 20th century is now a play. South African actors Robert Whitehead and John Carney have leading roles. Our reporter Diteru Selepe has more.
Congo, the trial of King Leopold II, is a play that follows the imaginary trial of King Leopold II for genocide and crimes against humanity. A whole cast of two, played by John Carney as Advocate Xola Mlambo and Robert Whitehead as King Leopold. Advocate Xola Mlambo puts King Leopold on trial for crimes he committed during his 23-year rule of Congo, which saw more than 10 million Africans massacred without him even setting a foot in the Congo. Director Lesedi Job says working with Carney and Whitehead has been a fulfilling experience.
It was an interesting journey. I really did say to myself going in that I wasn't going to come with a top-down strategy of going, I'm the director and therefore this is what's going to happen, but rather a collaborative process, because we were creating a new piece of theatre.
It hurts us. It troubles us.
John Carney says the thought of King Leopold II being on trial gives him joy.
I feel very glad to put this white man on trial for what he did on this continent.
Stake with the crown upon my head.
The play continues at the Market Theatre throughout the month of October. Ditoro Slepe, Johannesburg.
A reminder of our top stories before we go. President Cyril Ramaphosa returns 4,000 hectares of land to a community in KwaZulu-Natal, hailing it a historic moment for the country. The Sunday Times apologizes for unethical journalism, saying their reporters were manipulated by those with ulterior motives. Me, Shahan Ramkisoon, and the rest of the team, good night.